All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. The Carolina Panthers just traded for the #1 pick in this upcoming draft. I absolutely loved it. Now, all of Twitter right now is saying that the Chicago Bears absolutely fleeced the Panthers. They gave up the ninth pick, the 61st pick in the second round, a first-round pick for next season, a second-round pick in 2025, and then wide receiver DJ Moore. I think if DJ Moore wasn't involved in that trade, I don't think there would be too many people talking about a fleece. When I saw DJ's name in that trade, I was absolutely shocked. But here's the bottom line. You have the first pick in the draft, and now Carolina they obviously have their guy. They're not thinking right now, oh man, should we draft CJ Stroud, or should we go with Bryce Young, or should we go with Anthony Richardson? They're not doing any of that. They know their guy. They've had time to evaluate these guys. They've probably known who their man is for quite some time now. And with just teams like the Texans right there, you have the Colts right there. There's a lot of teams that are itching for a quarterback. And so you could argue realistically, all of the four quarterbacks, maybe not necessarily Will Levis or Anthony Richardson, but like if you're a team who needs a QB and you have the opportunity to get Bryce Young or CJ Stroud, you're going to make that decision. Now, what it boils down to is what is Carolina going to do? But before we get into the video any further, be sure to hit that like button, hit that sub button. Panthers fans, I absolutely love you guys, and I'm really excited to see what Frank Reich and Carolina can do next season. The most important thing was getting a QB. I know that there were other routes that they could take. They could sit back at 9 and hope maybe an Anthony Richardson or Will Levis fell to them. They could trade up to a pick like, somewhere between 5 and 7 and take one of those guys. You could throw a Band-Aid on it and take Jimmy Garoppolo on like a $10 to $12 million a year contract for one season. Those were all Band-Aids. That's a Band-Aid move. I'm so glad that they didn't do that. The big thing with Frank is you got to get him a quarterback. You got to get him a quarterback. Now, I know a lot of people right now who are thinking, Carolina with the first pick, they're taking Anthony Richardson. Well, I don't think that happens. I really don't. I wouldn't be upset if that were to happen. I do think at the end of the day, Bryce Young is going to be the Carolina Panthers starting quarterback for next year, and hopefully for Panthers fans, like a decade or so. I really like the young pieces they have on the defense. The Carolina, when you take a look even at the NFC South in general, there's just so much ambiguity. It's completely wide open. You had the best quarterback of all time. I know he's old and he just retired in Tom Brady, but you had a Super Bowl champion a couple of years ago, Tampa Bay, win your division at 8 and 9, and those two teams actually paired up against each other in Week 17 of the regular season in a win or go home atmosphere. And if you won it like Tampa Bay did, you'd have the 4th seed, which gives you a home playoff game. But the thing is, Tom Brady retired, and also you have Derek Carr so now Kyle Trask is set right now as the quarterback. You have Derek Carr over in New Orleans right now. The thing with Derek Carr is he's an average quarterback. He's not great by any means. He's not great. Not trying to rag on Derek Carr. He's just above averagely good. Carolina, they made a money move here today. And I get it, I'm not quite sure what Panthers fans are thinking about that. You see this flag down here. I'm really more familiar with what Bears fans are saying right now. Bears fans pretty split on it, so I'm not quite sure how Panthers fans are feeling about it. So let me know down below in the comments section. I think it will be Bryce Young. It could be Anthony Richardson. It also could be CJ Stroud. Honestly, I know some of those guys like AR-15 is a little bit more riskier per se. I think any of those three guys is perfect for Carolina. Keep in mind, Carolina this past season went through hell and back. They really did. You fire your head coach. You have like Baker Mayfield being your starting quarterback. You traded away your best player on your team in CMC. So yeah, there are some holes that this team needs to fill, like specifically the middle linebacker position. If they could get a dominant elite middle linebacker, I would watch out for this young and hungry defense. But the defense in general, to me, I really like where they're sitting. I absolutely love where they're sitting. Offensively, really the only concern I have is the loss of DJ Moore, because it was already an extremely depleted wide receiver group. Now, there are some guys like Marshall out there that are enticing. I wouldn't be surprised in a free agency and a draft where there's starting caliber wide receivers. So I think they'll take a move. They'll take a chance on a wide receiver somewhere. This free agency class for wide receivers it's not like it's completely loaded because you had guys like Devontae Adams sign extensions last season. So Jamar Chase, it's not as loaded as it was supposed to be, but there's plenty of capable starting wide receivers out there. That to me is what's next up to continuing to build this offense, because it's great. Like if you draft Bryce Young, or if you draft CJ, if you draft Richardson, it's great that you have your guy. And there's not too much pressure on this team next season because now you have a rookie quarterback and you have a first-year head coach. But you got to start filling it out. You don't want to be like the team you traded for or traded with, the Chicago Bears, where wide receivers just kind of go there to die, or at least they have in my lifetime, honestly, my entire lifetime. You have to surround him with talent. I like what Carolina has at the running back position. I think they need a tight end. I think they need some wide receivers, but that's not really the worry right now. Or I guess we're shifting into that. It was, who's our starting quarterback? Because it's great to have guys like DJ Moore. It's great to have, talented wide receivers, Devontae Adams, Jamar Chase. But if guys like Jarrett Stidham is throwing it to him, or if he's not even technically signed on the Raiders, Jarrett Stidham to Devontae Adams versus Joe Burrow to Jamar Chase is completely different. Like, there's completely different. You need the quarterback. You absolutely need the quarterback. So now what Carolina can do actually is something very quite similar to Cincinnati, where, all right, you get your guy, you pair him with a lethal, young, talented, high upside wide receiver, and you just continue to build your offense. You just build your offense with superstar studs. And I think that's the route that Carolina is going to get into. And with Frank Wright, I really think whatever QB they decide to take is going to be a huge difference maker. Like I said, man, I couldn't even imagine if they had, Sam Darnold. No disrespect to Sam Darnold. I think any shot he had at keeping his starting job, or the starting job that he ended up losing and then reclaiming at the end of the year, I think any shot he had with that would be getting into the playoffs and then like almost winning the playoff game against, who would it have been? The Dallas Cowboys, which that just wouldn't have happened. And Jimmy G, like I said, I just would not. It's just like a temporary Band-Aid. It doesn't fix anything. And I think Bryce Young is going to be the pick. I would probably go with, I really don't think it'll be Will Levis. No disrespect to Will Levis, but I think in my order, and this might be a little bit of a hot take, is I'm going to go Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson, and then CJ Stroud for who they're going to take at 1. But free agency is about to begin. We're like 5 days away from there. So hopefully they can get some guys to surround whoever they take at quarterback, because they already know who they're taking, and just go from there. I can't wait for the draft, especially because of this trade. So be sure to hit that like button, hit that sub button for daily NFL content. And I do post a ton of Panthers videos, so be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're an existing Panthers sub, I appreciate you guys so much. And I look forward to covering this team in the offseason.